Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And these next generation consoles are really starting to heat up now. That's right, both the PlayStation 5 as well as the Xbox Series are breaking records left and right. It really is crazy just how fast these consoles are selling. And I mean, if we look at the Xbox Series, this is a console that took a lot of criticism before its initial release because, well, they did delay Halo Infinite, and Xbox already kind of takes a lot of criticism from certain fans as well as the media. I'm not going to get into all of that today, but even then, the Xbox Series is doing exceptionally well. And then when you look at the PlayStation 5, this thing must be taking cues from Sonic because this thing is selling extraordinarily fast. But even then, it doesn't really sound like PlayStation is too confident that they will meet demand anytime soon. So we're going to go over all of that plus a lot more. With that said, though, let's just move on right into our first topic of the day. And unfortunately, yes, we have another delay to talk about. And this is a game that is no stranger to delays, to say the least. And that is for Digimon Survive. Now, this is coming directly from Toei Animation's financial report, where they did list Digimon Survive as a Q3 2022 title, and that would mean that this is the third year in a row that Digimon Survive will have been delayed for a year. Now, I don't know exactly what's happening here, but it was originally slated to release back in 2019, then it got pushed to 2020, then 2020 to 2021, and now it will be a 2022 title. So yeah, like I said, this game is no stranger to delays, to say the least. But I do think that this game looks promising. It's been a little while since we've seen some new gameplay, but it's this strategy RPG type of game similar to something like, let's say, the Disgaea franchise. And you know what? I think Digimon being a strategy RPG, I think it actually does make sense, and it seems like it's got a darker, more mature story as well. I just think from everything that we have seen about Digimon Survive so far, it does look promising. And I'm actually really excited about that because I grew up a big Digimon fan. I would like to see more good Digimon games in the future. We did get Cyber Sleuth a few years back, but I think this one in particular looks really, really good. So hopefully it meets expectations when it does eventually release. Who knows when that will be? Hopefully it'll be 2022, but, well, I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see. Now, also a new exciting studio by the name of That's No Moon popped up, and this one's actually really interesting. So check this out. This new studio is apparently working on a single-player third-person action-adventure game that's backed with a $100 million investment. And yeah, right away, that $100 million investment's really going to stand out because this is a brand new studio, so why is a publisher backing them with that type of money? And there's actually a really good reason for this. That's No Moon is absolutely filled with all-star talent. The team includes talent from several popular PlayStation games, including Uncharted, God of War, The Last of Us Part 2, and even beyond that. They have people who's worked on games such as Call of Duty and Destiny as well. So like I said before, I mean, this studio is filled with all-star talent, and that's exactly why you're seeing Smilegate give them $100 million worth of funding. Now, Smilegate is a really interesting publisher as well because this is the South Korean video game publisher that's worked on games such as Crossfire. Now, Crossfire X is soon to be coming to the Xbox Series in the future, but yeah, we're seeing Smilegate enter the arena of these big publishers with apparently a very promising studio going forward. Now, as of this moment, we don't really have much details about what game they're working on other than it's a third-person action-adventure game, but we do know that they have a lot of talent here, and they're also looking to build a team of 100 developers by 2022. So I think this might be worth paying attention to, and I have noticed a trend here recently. We are starting to see some really big independent studios pop up with some all-star talent, and that includes Firewalk Studios, which PlayStation is funding. They're also funding that Jade Raymond game as well, and now we're seeing here this new game come from That's No Moon Studio, funded by, of course, Smilegate. Again, we'll kind of have to wait and see what happens with this, but But really, I do like this trend of some of these talented developers forming their own studios with ambitious aspirations. Obviously, we're seeing some big publishers buying into their plans, and I think we could get some special games out of this. Again, the talent is there, and we're seeing these publishers kind of make a gamble here and just, rolling the dice and seeing what happens. Of course, it might not always pay off, but I think it's at the very least worth a chance. Next up, we need to talk about the state of the Xbox Series, and this is actually really impressive, and I'll kind of explain in further details in just a moment, but it has now been confirmed the Xbox Series X and S is the fastest selling Xbox console ever. Yeah, that's right, and this is coming directly from the CEO of Microsoft himself, Satya Nadella. And while he didn't exactly go into great details about how many units the Xbox Series has sold to date, according to Daniel Ahmad, which has a great track record for this type of stuff, did say that they estimated that the Xbox Series X and S total sell-in was 6.5 million units as of June 30th. That is compared to their estimate of 5.7 million for the Xbox One in the same time frame and 5 million for the Xbox 360. He also said that the supply for the Series X and S has improved in the past quarter, with hardware revenue up 20% quarter over quarter. So yeah, this is all incredibly impressive, and I think it's actually far more impressive than what these numbers tell. And the reason I say that is because if you really think about it, the fact that the Xbox Series is the fastest selling Xbox console ever without Halo Infinite, or really any of their big first-party games yet, is very telling on what Xbox has built up in recent years. I think right now, we are seeing more excitement for Xbox ever, and there's a lot of reasons for this, which I'll kind of go into in just a moment. But Halo Infinite, their big first-party game that was supposed to launch side by side with the Xbox Series, unfortunately got delayed. And obviously, I think Xbox made the right decision to delay Halo Infinite. It was very obvious that this game needed a delay, and even though, yes, it was a hard decision to make, it was the right choice. But you kind of know how the internet works. The media and some fans out there were, as soon as this game got delayed, just kind of doomed the Xbox Series. What is Xbox doing, and how are they going to sell this thing without their big exclusive title for really a year? But I've kind of pointed this out in the past. There's so much more going for Xbox than just Halo Infinite. Yes, Halo Infinite will come, and for that matter, there's a lot of exclusives for the Xbox Series in the pipeline. Yes, they have 23 total studios now. It's going to happen. You're going to get your Halo Infinite. You're going to get the Gear 6 that you want, the Forza Horizon 5 or Forza Motorsport. You're going to get Hellblade 2. You're going to get Everwild and Perfect Dark, Starfield, Fable, and the list just kind of goes on and on. They have a lot of games in development, and all of those will be coming. But it's also important for them to get the quality of these games right, and that is why Halo Infinite was delayed. And for me, I was never worried about this whatsoever because, and I've said this before, there's other things happening with Xbox that has fans excited. Early adopters don't just buy consoles for day one. They buy them for the future as well. And Xbox, without a doubt, has a very, very bright future. And beyond that, there's current reasons to own an Xbox Series. The Xbox Series X is a very powerful console. It allows you to play 90+% of all games in the market at 60 frames per second. You're gonna be able to play with 4K resolution. All of these games that has been held back by these last generation consoles to 30 frames per second, you can now play at 60 frames. The Xbox Series has this amazing backwards compatibility. It's got Xbox Game Pass that has really all these Xbox fans just so excited, and why not? You get this just great curated package every single month. We've talked about it a lot in the last couple weeks. There's a lot of great games coming out right now to Xbox Game Pass. And just the last couple weeks, you've gotten Chris Tells, you've gotten Flight Simulator, you're going to soon get The Ascent, you're going to get Psychonauts 2, you're going to get Hades, and all of these other games. They just have so many games coming to Xbox Game Pass. And a lot of these are day one titles. So there's a lot of reasons to own an Xbox Series right now, and it doesn't just all come down crashing on Halo Infinite. But yes, it's very easy to see why the Xbox Series is selling so rapidly. So really, I can't sit here and say that I was all that surprised by the news that the Xbox Series is the fastest selling console in the history of Xbox. I think it's impressive, all things considered, but I think we've been kind of seeing this for a little while now. There's a lot of excitement for Xbox right now, not just for the future on all these exclusives, but also currently with things like Xbox Game Pass, the backwards compatibility, this ultra powerful console, and all of that. It's not hard to see why the Xbox Series has been successful, even though, internet wars and all that stuff might try to sway you a different way. But I mean, you really just have to pay attention to how this thing is stocked online. We're going to kind of talk about this a little bit more here in just a second with the PlayStation 5, but we're seeing it with the Xbox Series as well. This thing sells out as soon as it hits online. It's really hard to get an Xbox Series or a PlayStation 5 right now because they just sell out so incredibly fast. The excitement, hype, and demand is just so incredibly high for these next generation consoles right now. And I don't think that there's going to be an end to that anytime soon. We're going to continue to see these platforms sell out over the next year. And actually, let's just go and talk about the PlayStation 5 because of that. While the Xbox Series is the fastest selling Xbox console ever, well, the PlayStation 5 is actually the fastest selling console ever. Yeah, Sony also confirmed some numbers today as the PlayStation 5 has now officially sold more than 10 million units worldwide, making it the fastest selling console ever. Now, you're kind of seeing a similar situation here as you are with the Xbox Series. Really, as long as you can flood the market with these consoles, they're going to sell out, and they're going to sell out fast. I mean, it's no secret that PlayStation is just this massive, huge brand, and it's really popular throughout most of the world. PlayStation is just an incredibly big gaming brand, and I mean, we're seeing this time and time again, but the PlayStation 5 will sell out within minutes or even seconds at times as soon as they get stock online. It really is incredible what PlayStation is doing, and I'm actually pretty amazed right now that they've already managed to produce 10 million units worldwide. Here's kind of the thing, though. The big question with the PlayStation 5, because obviously it's a popular console, how long will it be before they do meet that initial demand? Are we looking at another couple months, or are we looking at even longer than that? And this was a really interesting response by PlayStation boss Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan did say, "We've built more PlayStations faster than we ever have before, which makes me happy. But on the other hand, we're some time from being able to meet all the demand that's out there, which makes me feel bad." So with that said, it does sound like the PlayStation 5 will still be very difficult to get, probably, I imagine, for the rest of the year. It's definitely not going to get better during the holidays, and it'll probably be a lot worse even then. But it does seem like PlayStation is continuing to flood the market with PlayStation 5 units, which is a really good sign. And it's definitely needed right now because the PlayStation 5 actually already does have a couple big exclusives. It does have Demon's Souls, it's got Returnal, as well as Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and I know a lot of fans are going to want to play those games. So it's really good that they are flooding the market the way they are, but it does sound like it's probably still a little ways away before they do meet that initial demand, and it'll probably be well into 2022 before that does happen. I know that's unfortunate, but we are in unprecedented times. Again, I actually think it's very impressive that they've managed to do as good as they have, considering that we are dealing with a semiconductor shortage. This is really something that almost everybody in the tech community is dealing with right now, but I think PlayStation in specific has handled this like a champ. They have managed to produce so many units, and they're really trying their hardest to meet that demand. So if you are still looking for a PlayStation 5, just kind of be patient and keep trying, because you're eventually going to get it. I can only speak for myself, but I did manage to snag 2 of these, one for myself and then one for my friend. And the way I did that is that I actually followed several different PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series alert accounts where they will notify you when these consoles come in stock. It's actually quite annoying because your phone is just going to blow up constantly, but it was very helpful. I'll actually leave a few different people to follow in the description below if you are interested in something like that. Regardless, just seeing just how much success the Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5 has had early on this generation is just great news for gaming as a whole. Xbox is doing well, PlayStation is doing well, and we also know the Nintendo Switch is doing incredibly well. So just congrats to gaming as a whole. This is just fantastic news. I know there's certain people out there that might not want a specific console to be successful, but I'm always going to kind of say this. Competition breeds excellence. Xbox makes PlayStation better, and PlayStation makes Xbox better, and the same goes for Nintendo. They all make each other better by performing well, and that's exactly what we're seeing this generation. We have a healthy overall game industry. Fans should be very happy right now. Now, we also do have one other topic to go over here, and that is for Xbox Games with Gold, as well as the PlayStation Plus August lineup. We'll kind of go over the PlayStation Plus lineup first, which includes Hunters Arena Legends, Tennis World Tour 2, and Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville. So right away, this is a pretty decent overall lineup. It's not one of their best, as they've really done great this generation with the PlayStation 5 so far, but there's definitely some titles here worth paying attention to. If you do like tennis, you can check out Tennis World 2, of course, but Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville, I do like the Plants vs. Zombies third-person shooter franchise as a whole. These are just really fun overall titles with a pretty good competitive multiplayer, so I definitely recommend checking that one out. But the big one here is Hunters Arena Legends. This is a day one release, and even though it doesn't have the best Steam reviews, I'm kind of hoping that it turns out a little bit better here on consoles. I think a lot of the Steam reviews is based off of this game apparently is just dead over there, so hopefully with it getting an actual community this time, maybe it will be just a better overall game. Kind of crossing my fingers for that one. Now, as for Xbox Games with Gold, this is actually one of the best lineups I've seen from them in quite some time, so let's just go and check this out. You have Darksiders 3, Yooka-Laylee, Lost Planet 3, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this one right, but Garo, Mark of the Wolves. Now, I can't speak for that one per se, but I will say that Darksiders 3, Lost Planet 3, and Yooka-Laylee are all pretty solid titles. I'm personally a big Yooka-Laylee fan, as this is a Banjo-Kazooie spiritual successor, and even though some of the community didn't necessarily like the first game that much, I thought it was a pretty solid 3D platformer. I was happy with it, and it very much does feel like a Banjo-Kazooie title. Maybe not quite as good, but still a good game. And then Darksiders 3, this is one that you definitely need to check out. I think that's going to be the big release that has most fans excited, but like I said, this is probably one of the best Xbox Games with Gold lineups we've seen in quite some time. Let's take a look at the poll of the day, though. Yesterday, we talked about how Shawn Layden, the former PlayStation boss, said that consolidation is the enemy of diversity. Now, I'm not exactly so sure that I agree with that, which I'll get into a little bit more here in just a second, but I thought I'd ask you all, what is your all's thoughts on what he had to say? Do you all think consolidation of the game industry has negatively impacted the diversity of games? And interestingly enough, 57% of you said no. Now, if you all listened to my video yesterday, you probably know that I don't agree with Shawn Layden here either. With that said, I do like Shawn Layden, but I just didn't agree with what he had to say here in particular. But looking through the comments, some of you all did make some really well-made points. As an example, you all did mention that there are certain publishers out there that makes acquisitions that just does a really great overall job, such as Xbox with being a little hands-off with their first-party studios. They let them do what they want to. And then Sega, and I never really thought about this before, but somebody did mention Sega in the comments, because if you take a look at somebody like Atlus, which was acquired by Sega, you really can't tell the difference between Atlus then and then Atlus now. They still pretty much act independently from Sega in a lot of ways. Now, if you ask me, I think Sega needs to push them to making more multi-platform games. But overall, you know, in terms of development for their games, they still make just as high-quality games now as they ever did. So you all do point out that there are certain publishers that does a great job with these acquisitions. But also, and I did talk about this yesterday, is there's just a lot of diversity in games right now in general. You just have so many independent studios across the industry that's working on great smaller games. You have your mid-tier games as well, and then you also have your big AAA games. I think within just the next month or so, you're kind of seeing that with games like The Ascent. You have Death's Door. Psychonauts 2 comes out next month. You had Zelda Skyward Sword HD earlier this month, and then there was Hades and Flight Simulator, and you can kind of see a range of different games here. So I think that there's a lot of diversity currently. And for that matter, I think we also get a lot of new IPs alongside these continued franchises. I just don't currently see any major problems, though that could change depending on what happens in the future. I can't really speak for tomorrow, but for today, from what I'm seeing, I don't really see a major problem as of this particular moment. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.